guys, welcome to another episode. So today we are talking about detox, and this is episode 5, isn't it?
Episode 5, yeah. Yeah, so we talked a little bit about detox in the past. Today, as well as the detox trends that are around in the market at the moment, I thought it would be interesting to go over what your body actually does a little bit, just to explain that in some really basic terms, because I think it's quite confusing out there when we hear the word detox and we kind of just mean lots of things. So I've done a really simple breakdown that was easy enough for me to understand. So hopefully
that means we can all understand. This I am interested in because I've done plenty of detoxes, whether it's juice cleanse, food cleansers, skincare purges. There's all these things about purging and detoxing and almost like cleaning the body. But I really don't know how much truth there is to that.
Yeah.
I feel good in the moment, but that could just be because I am so strict about what goes into my body. If my body's actually doing anything that's going to give me any benefits beyond that, I have no idea.
Yeah. So for you then, and because you've mentioned juice cleanses in the past as a detox thing, conceptually, what does it mean to detox? Is that do you start off feeling rubbish and you do a bunch of things and you come out feeling better? Is that like psychologically what it feels like?
Yeah, I mean, I think my case for doing one is different to the average person because I have so many gut issues. I do it when my gut gets to a point I need to just stop putting everything in. And that's why I'm curious about the detox thing, because say the average person that doesn't have gut issues can eat food quite easily, has no issues functioning in a day-to-day scenario. What do they get out of a detox? And for me, as soon as I finish a detox, I pretty quickly go back to how I was unless I'm very strict about what I keep putting in my body. So for me, it's almost more of an accountability thing.
Yeah.
Okay, I've got my body back feeling good. Now I have to try and keep it this way versus it being something I'm going to do to give my body an added boost or something.
Okay. So, and I think that what you describe is probably how most of us intuitively think about it. So I might go to the sauna, for example, and I feel like it's somehow cleansing me, or I don't know, maybe detoxing me. But of course, the actual science doesn't back that up. But that's not to say that there's not something to it, right?
Yeah, I think saunas are interesting. So I've started doing saunas the last 2 weeks. And because there's the facilities in the apartment building I'm in, there's a steam room, a sauna, a pool, and a spa. And I just hop around them. The sauna versus the steam room, everyone says saunas are better for you. I cannot last long enough in a sauna, whereas I can last ages in a steam room. But I'm not dripping with sweat the way I would be in a sauna. So that's where I do find that sauna 100% makes me feel better. But is that just, like you said, a psychological thing? Is it because I'm in there and I'm sweating and I'm hot and I'm almost in pain that I feel better?
Interesting that you prefer the steam room, because I am the complete opposite. The drier the sauna, especially the infrared ones, seem to heat me up a bit easier for some reason. But traditional saunas, if no one puts any water on the coals, it can be crazy hot, and I just sit in there and I'm like, I'm good. So
see, I'm the opposite. I go in the steam room and I'm hot, but I'm like, I don't feel like it's hurting enough for this to be actually doing anything.
Yeah.
Whereas the sauna is killing me, but I'm like, I can only last 10 minutes in here. Am I even in here long enough for it to be doing anything?
Yeah.
So it's interesting. You find the sauna easier.
Well, I feel like when I'm in the sauna that I'm trying to breathe through a wet rag.
I just can't breathe in there, full stop. It's the one thing I haven't mastered, being able to breathe in a sauna.
Oh, but do you find the steam room okay?
Yeah.
Oh, no.
So that is why I prefer the sauna, because in the sauna, I'm like, okay, heart's racing, I'm gasping for air, whereas the steam room, I could be in there for an hour, happily.
Wow, I cannot breathe in the steam room.
Okay, so that's interesting. So it is just person to person, because I just thought that was a general thing.
Yeah, maybe it's largely psychological. I also am a terrible swimmer for similar reasons. People have taught me the actions to swim, and I can kind of understand it. And then when I actually get into the water, just not at home.
So do you like panic when you get in the water, or it's just a weird feeling?
I've given up trying to know. So I had swimming lessons all my life. Like,
Oh, right. So you've done the whole, like, should be quite a good swimmer.
growing up, I had swimming lessons. We didn't live by the ocean or anything, but my parents would take us to the beach. I had more swimming lessons when I was about 15. And I remember it was quite funny at the time because I went to a swim school at the age of 15. And of course, everyone else in the swim school is like 8, 9, and 10. And that was me. And they taught me all of the strokes. So like, it's not actually called freestyle, is it? It's
Isn't it? I thought it was freestyle.
I think freestyle is the event when that means you can do whatever you like. But the actual, like, this one is, yeah, it's called the something crawl, something like that. So they taught me that butterfly, breaststroke, backstroke, even how to do like the turns in the pool.
Oh, so you can do like butterfly and all those things.
I could at one point, but I was just terrible. And it's all to do with not being able to breathe around the water. And I don't know what it is. And I also, it is psychological as well because I can't, it just feels like a waste of time. Like I could get out of the pool and walk to the other end. Like,
yeah, why get in, get wet, get cold? Just walk there.
Yeah. So if I fall in the water somewhere, I don't drown immediately. I can breaststroke for a fair while. I can stay afloat, but I can actually swim, but I'm just the worst swimmer. It looks like I'm drowning.
That's because obviously I said I can't swim, but that's because I literally can't do the strokes. I've not actually met someone that can do all the strokes, but just hates it.
Yeah. Well, when I say I can do them, I mean, I don't know how you would describe it. It's like I know how to do all the strokes. I wouldn't say I'm good at any of them. So yeah, it's interesting that sauna versus steam room. I can just sit in especially the regular sauna, not the infrared, and my skin's hot, and it can be a bit hot to breathe if it's really, really hot.
How long do you normally do it for? Because you do it consistently, don't you? You do that in the cold plunge quite regularly.
I'm not at the moment because the place I was going to shut down. Probably because there's so much competition around. There's a new one opening up every other week in Sydney. It's crazy. So the infrared ones, and if I put it on maximum temperature, and I only do sauna, I usually can't last the full 45 minutes.
That's still a long time.
But infrared sauna, 30 minutes at 70, fine. And if I get into the cold plunge, then it just makes it so much easier.
Yeah, so that cold plunge, when it comes to detoxing, I actually think of everything I've read, the cold plunge I actually think makes the most sense. I can see why shocking your body in that way would cause some sort of reaction that does actually do something.
Yeah, and that's where, we get back to, is there an indirect, is it helping your body detox? It's interesting. So, and that's where I'll get into a little bit of just the very high level things that I've understood about how this works. Disclaimer, of course, I'm not a medical doctor. This is not my field of research, but this is what I've been looking at recently, just in prep for this podcast. So, removing toxins and waste from your body is primarily liver, kidney, lungs, digestive system, and your lymphatic system. So I think we all know liver does something where it has this 2-phase cleansing or 2-phase detox, where first of all, it has some enzymes that break things down. And then after it breaks those things down, there may be other byproducts that also are not great. And so it does another phase where it then cleans up those extra things. So the first phase, what the liver does, can produce free radicals or some harmful things, and they then get processed again. And then that's the stuff that gets excreted either in your urine, or then bile will take it, and bile will basically send it into the digestive system.
See, I don't know how any of this works, so this is actually interesting to me.
Yeah, it's super interesting when I was doing a little bit of research as well. So that's what your liver does. It's, if you ingest something that's harmful, or you've got something in your body that's harmful, and that could also be your body could create something harmful, or any sort of damage or anything like that. So the liver does all of that, and then that goes out through urine or feces.
Because the joke used to be that if you'd had a lot to drink, it was like, oh, my poor liver. That is the only way I know that the liver detoxes is because of that saying of being like, oh, my poor liver.
Yeah, and that's why I don't know enough of the details, but that's why you end up with liver disease if you're a heavy drinker for an extended period of time. And I think the metaphor is that if you drink lots and lots of alcohol, it creates this environment in your liver where eventually your liver is essentially pickled in some way. I don't know if that's really how it works, but that's kind of what people think in their heads. So you've got liver, and you also have the kidneys. So the kidneys is more there for filtering the blood. So you have all these things coming through your blood, and you may have too much salt in your blood or too much water in your blood if you drink a lot, and then it gets sent into your blood for whatever reason. And your kidneys always filtering the blood that way, and then it excretes via urine as well. So I'm a little bit cloudy on liver to kidney relationship. And obviously the stuff's going out through urine. So listeners may want to, if they want to understand that part themselves, do a little bit more research. But the liver does that conversion of toxic things, and that those things either then go out through urine or feces, and the kidney also excretes toxins. So things come from the liver and then processed by the kidney, I believe, but check that. And then that goes out through urine that way. And that's the difference there with some things are water soluble and some things aren't. So, and I know this very well from developing FLCK, is that some things when you put them into a glass of water, you'll see them and they'll kind of disappear, and some things won't. And examples of that in the drink is caffeine will dissolve, sugar will dissolve in water, but we have phosphatidylserine in FLCK, and that's a lipid, and lipids won't dissolve in water. And so the only way you get them in there is that they're either sink to the bottom, or maybe they're suspended. So if you have like orange juice and there's like floaty things in there, those things are not soluble.
So how come I can't see things in FLCK? Why does it look clear?
Because we hide them.
Uh-huh. So you can still hide them, so you don't have like pulp bits.
No, the particles can be small enough that they're basically floating in the water.
But you just can't see.
Yeah, and if you ran that water through a filter paper, those things would get stuck in the filter paper, whereas like the caffeine would just go straight through because it's dissolved. So water-soluble things go out through your urine, and other things will go out through your feces, and bile is used to bind to those things, so that the bile binds to them, and then it goes and then that's how the bile goes somewhere out to your feces. So that's liver and kidneys, and then your lungs actually do a really important detox, which is one that we probably most of us know about, which is that carbon dioxide is not good for us.
I remember hearing about this in school, but I've never really wrapped my head around it.
Oxidation is important. Like if you can't oxidize things, you can't have chemical reactions happening, essentially. And like really when your body gets oxygen, it uses oxygen, the result of the oxidation is the oxygen is bonded. Is that the right term? But anyway, you start with oxygen and you end up with carbon and oxygen, and that's carbon dioxide. Because we're constantly having these chemical reactions in the body or in the lungs, wherever it is, and we're carbon-based things, organisms. And so when we breathe and we respirate, we're creating carbon dioxide, and we need to get rid of that stuff. So we breathe out carbon dioxide.
I feel like I'm learning a lot this episode. I don't know any of this stuff.
It's one of those things where you kind of hear bits and pieces, but it was super interesting for me to look at the sort of the whole process. And that's the reason you breathe, apparently. So you're not really breathing. Your brain isn't forced to breathe because it wants more oxygen. Your brain is forced to breathe because it's like CO2 level, got to expel it. That's how it works.
Oh, that's weird to think about.
Yeah.
So the whole point of breathing isn't necessarily to get air in, it's to get it out.
Well, it's probably both, but what I understand of how your body knows that it has to breathe is that it has too much CO2.
It's got to get that thing out.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so weird.
And so the CO2 is in the bloodstream, and that's CO2 in the bloodstream, and your lungs go and expel them. So, and your lungs can also expel other things called volatile organic compounds that have been inhaled that can expel those as well. And so the lungs, that's a super, if you think about what's in the body that's not wanted, CO2 is probably the biggest one. And so that detoxing in that sense is getting that stuff out. Your lungs are playing a big part there. And then, of course, digestive system is involved. And the main one there is that, like I said, the liver, I think bile might be produced in the pancreas, something like that. But anyway, bile is used to get these insoluble or non-soluble things and get them into the waste in your digestive system. So that's the first important one. And that's for things that are fat soluble. So bile will pick up fat soluble things. So when we say like lipids, and also part of that digestive system is that getting fiber. Fiber will also somehow absorb some fats as well. There's some evidence that if you ingest fiber with fats, that your body won't absorb as much of the fat. And probably a bunch of other things. But yeah, the fiber, and of course, as we know, fiber does a lot of other things for the digestive system.
Yeah, I mean, the digestive system one, I think everyone knows how important that is, especially with how trendy gut health is, and that gut health and mental health connection of if your gut's out, everything's out.
Yeah, most of this is not from the research I was doing with this, but something about most of what's in your digestive system is bacteria that's sort of part of you. And so when bowel movements are like mostly that bacteria, whereas we think of it as being used up food, but apparently it's all this bacteria sort of shedding out. It's interesting.
That's so weird. Yeah, I thought it was food.
Yeah, it's kind of like this entire microbiome that you have in your guts is kind of just constantly refreshing, and so yeah, interesting.
The more you learn about humans, the weirder it gets. You almost get to a point where you're like, I don't even want to know. Like, that's just weird.
It's weird. There's a really cool, I don't know if you've ever seen them. I definitely recommend anybody to go watch them. And I'm going to pronounce this wrong. There's something called Kurzgesagt.
Never heard of it.
And they create these really fun animations on YouTube. And they explain all kinds of things like how the immune system works, and they do physics things as well, like black holes, and it's really cool. Yeah. So we did liver, kidneys, lungs, digestive system, and the last one there is the lymphatic system. So the lymphatic system does a whole lot of things around the immune system, things like that. But also when you have cellular waste or things that are in your tissues and they have to get filtered in some way. So they'll go to a lymph node and then into the bloodstream. And so you think about dead cells will go to the lymph node, lymphatic system will process them, and then it goes into the bloodstream, and then it would go into the kidneys and then excreted if.
So the lymphatic system I find really interesting because I do a lymphatic drainage massage every day. That one I found it's Rebecca something, but she has an Instagram page called Detox by Rebecca, and she was one of the ones that brought the Brazilian lymphatic drainage massage to America from Brazil. And she could not believe that it wasn't a thing. Like in Brazil, it was something that it's covered by their healthcare system to get these lymphatic drainage massages, especially if you are pre-pregnancy or you've just had a baby or you have any sort of injury, any sort of sickness. How much in Brazil they think the lymphatic system is so important and how much it really doesn't function that well by itself. And often you do need to do things like lymphatic drainage massages to kind of help. The way she says it, says it's like the body's trash can. Otherwise, all that stuff is just stuck there. And until her, I had never heard of the lymphatic system. So digestive you hear about, obviously you hear about your liver and your other body parts, you kind of just guess they're there for a function. But I had never, ever, ever heard of the lymphatic system other than like every now and then when you get those lumps on your neck. And I'd be like, what's this? And my mum would be like, oh, it's an inflamed lymph node. You're like, okay. Never did I know it was a function of something though.
Yeah. It's interesting that those lymphatic drainages, I mean, I don't know exactly how it would be working.
It's the weirdest thing. The only reason I really do it is because it completely relieves my bloating. Completely, which is bizarre.
Which, I mean, I think it makes a lot of sense. And like I said, I don't know, we would have to look at the science around it, but in the same sense that if people are, for example, constipated, doing exercise is always recommended. It's helpful. So I would say it has to be the same sort of thing that massage is pushing the tissues and the lymphatic system is dealing with the tissues. So you're helping it do its job in some way, I think. Yeah,
I think like it feels like just pushing fluid around. That fluid just doesn't kind of move. Otherwise, it just gets stuck. But it's just interesting that I had never heard of that one until a year ago. No, it's really recent, that one.
Yeah, if you get a swollen lymph node or something like when you're a kid, yeah, it's they get infected because they're doing all that work. So if all your cells have been infected by a virus or something, then when those cells die, then it's all going to the lymph node, and so it's overworked. So that's the 5 there, and this is I wanted to say they're the 5 because we often hear about detoxing through sweat, and I did look at that quite carefully, and there's very little. It's mostly water. It's 99% water. You lose some salts in your sweat, and that's of course why like hydration drinks like Powerade ever became popular in the first place, is because you do need to rebalance your salt because you're losing some. Some other small things will come out in sweat, but sweat is not a way your body detoxes or like cleans itself out.
So because I used to believe that sweat, if I was exercising sauna, I'd had to completely bucket with sweat or I wasn't getting the benefits. I have never been one that sweats a lot. So I would take those really hardcore thermogenic pre-workouts that like make you really, really hot so that I would sweat. And I remember I was like it would nearly give me a heart attack. And I was like, is there really, am I outweighing the health benefits here being so obsessed with feeling like I have to be sweating? Because I just stopped taking it because I was like, I might not get the health benefits, but these pre-workouts are going to kill me. So to know it actually maybe really wasn't worth it.
Yes, I wouldn't be surprised if there was no actual need to sweat.
Because even in the fitness community, that's so like the second people are sweating, they're taking photos of it. And it's like this, look how hard I'm working. And like if you're not sweating, you're not working hard enough. So there's this like obsession with getting that sweat on.
I guess because it's a visible, like sweating is a visible thing. So you know you've worked out because you can see it. There's definitely, like, there's a lot of evidence that you need to, particularly for the muscles, they need to be worked hard. But the sweat itself is just your body's way of, it's just for the sweat is there so that it evaporates and cools you down. That's what it does. Some animals, interestingly, Brumby doesn't sweat, and to cool down, dogs open their mouths, and the tongue is.
Neither can pigs. So you know how pigs roll around in mud? Because I used to have pigs, and they have this reputation for being really, really dirty. So they roll around in mud. But they are actually one of the cleanest animals because they roll around in mud because they can't sweat. So they give themselves like this protective barrier against the sun. And then when you have pigs, so I had this little paddling pool because once it's cooled down, they then like to go and roll around in the water to get the mud off and clean. So they've got this whole process because they can't sweat.
Well, and they probably, I would imagine if you had a barn full of pigs or a barn full of humans who didn't shower, I reckon the barn full of humans would smell 1,000 times worse.
Yeah, I'd take the pigs any day.
Yeah. So that's how that works. I mean, I've got a bunch of extra stuff here about how different parts of those work, which we could dive into a little bit more. But I thought, in terms of detox, it will be interesting to look at what are the things that can get into your body that it can't get rid of, that there are procedures to do. There are things that come in from the environment that you can't get rid of, that there are ways to get rid of it. And I guess that would be an actual detox. So I'll go through a list of them. So heavy metals.
Have you heard of the heavy metal detox smoothie?
No. That's
okay, so I spent like hundreds of dollars buying all the ingredients for this heavy metal detox smoothie that everyone raves about, that this guy's made a fortune off. And I couldn't drink it, so I didn't do it again. But it was just like a whole bunch of supplements and I think coriander.
Of course.
And supposedly if you have that every morning, it gets rid of all the heavy metals.
Right. Okay. So I looked at this, and I can say, like, how do you actually do this? So the process of getting rid of heavy metals is chelation therapy.
That doesn't sound like a smoothie.
Yeah. Probably not. So it's a medical procedure where they have to give you something that means that they can get the metals out of the blood.
As in, like, they give you a pill or a drink, or?
No. Yeah, so that I don't know if they have to inject them. It might be. I think one of the most common ones is something called EDTA. Now, I don't know how to pronounce it, but this is used for lead poisoning. And when they give you this, then it'll bind in your blood, and then your kidneys will be able to get rid of it. So that's a real thing. And there's different ones. DMSA, which is an acid, which is used for lead and mercury poisoning. There's a few other ones. And so they are real things, but it's a medical procedure. And the idea is that they give you one of these compounds, a chelating agent, and it binds to the metal ions, and then they can come out.
Yeah, see, this is just going to make me no longer believe in any of the things I see on social media, because I believed heavily in that smoothie. That makes me feel like a smoothie isn't going to do it.
I mean, I guess possibly it could have some chelating agents in it. I guess you don't know what's in it. Like, who knows? But my understanding is that it has to be very carefully monitored medically, because I think you can actually overload the kidneys.
Yeah, okay. That makes sense.
So chelation therapy is used for getting heavy metals out. Other things, and I guess that would be a detox. Other things, of course, that get into the body that we can't get out. Famously, asbestos gets into your lungs, and that stays there forever, really.
Yeah, I've heard of that one.
There are some organic pollutants that can end up in your body as well. Organic chemicals that, poisonous chemicals they use in war, things like that. Those can get into the body and stay there. Radioactive substances as well. I guess they would also class as heavy metals, but plutonium and radium, pretty bad. And there are ways, again, chelation therapy, you can get some of those out of the body. But of course, the important thing to note even is that generally chelation means your body still has to take it out. You're just helping your body to get it out of the bloodstream. Silica dust, coal dust, that gets into lungs as well. There is something called, and this sounds horrible, I never knew this existed. There's something called whole lung lavage, where essentially, and this is a real procedure they do, if someone inhales lots of dust particles, coal dust, silica dust, and silica dust can just be from, like those insulation fat bats or something. They can wash the lungs with saline.
Wash the lungs?
I don't know. I guess they have to hook you up to a life support system so that your lungs are temporarily not used, and then they're going to rinse your lungs out, which sounds
wow, invasive.
Microplastics also.
Yeah, well, I know about how bad they are because that's everyone's. Remember when the water bottle thing started years ago?
Well, it's one of those things where still nobody knows. Apparently, we're all just full of microplastics these days, and nobody. Last I looked up, there's nobody has any way to get any of them out. They just accumulate into tissues and wherever else in your body, and they just stay there.
Great.
Yeah, sounds good.
We're just bacteria and microplastics.
Yeah, that's what we'll be. Yeah. The other way that you can get things out of the body is that they can hook you up and they can have your blood come out and they can process the blood and they can put the cleaned blood back in.
So do they do that like as old blood's going out, the new blood's coming back in? So they can't just drain you of blood, clean it all, and then put it back in. How's that work?
Yeah, you walk into a they'll go to a machine and it just sucks you dry like an I don't know what.
Dried up sponge, and then it goes in like a washing machine, and then they put it all back, and you're good as gold.
Yeah, they rehydrate you. No, they have to hook you up, I assume, for a long time, and it's the same as like an IV, except you've got another one coming out, and so out and then reprocessed and then comes back in, and that is used for some medical reasons, and it's a last resort. That's how when we say detoxing, there's like chelation is a real thing. Generally for heavy metals, and they're very specific things. Like I said, EDTA, which is an acid with a 25-ish letter name, so I'm not sure. DMSA, which is another acid. DTPA, so some other sort of acid. But I think because some sort of chemistry, the acid will bind to the heavy metal ions, and then it'll let your kidneys take it out. So, yeah, it binds to ions, forms something that's water soluble, and then your kidneys can take it out.
Yeah. So far though, nothing we can do at home.
No, I like
no convenient detoxing options yet, which makes me believe less and less about detoxing when it comes to what we would call detoxing.
That's right. And nothing you do at home because, like I said, it's a medical procedure. EDTA, for example, which they use to get heavy metals out, it will also chelate other things. So it'll bind to other things like calcium and magnesium and zinc, and those are things that you kind of need. And so that's why they have to monitor this, and it's a medical procedure that they might have to give you more of those things that you're losing in addition to the heavy metals, all kinds of other things. So chelation is always a medically supervised because they have to watch carefully. Like I said, kidney function as well, because your kidneys can get overloaded if they're trying to take too much stuff out at once.
Yeah.
So I thought what we could do is have a chat about some of the detox things that we've tried. Some of them we haven't tried, but the ones that we'll talk about, I'll just list them out in order, and then we can just go through them. Juice cleansers is one. Infrared saunas, or saunas in general, or sweating. Alkaline diets. I don't know if you've heard about these alkaline cleansers. A funny one that, one that I find quite interesting is buckyballs.
What?
There's two different, sometimes buckyballs, like there's these little magnets you can buy, and people call those buckyballs. But the ones I'm thinking about is something called carbon 60. So it's this particular way that carbon can form this little ball, like at the atomic level. So yeah, so that's carbon 60 buckyballs, or fullerenes, or they've got other terms for them. I thought it'd be interesting to talk about beta carotene quickly, just because there's one interesting study on beta carotene, and there's another one. This is another one that's a bit of a warning, is that there's something called miracle mineral supplement, which is posed as detoxing and is anything but. So
sounds like what is it called? Sometimes they call it the miracle detox, or it's the lemon detox. Anything miracle is always anything but.
Yeah. Well, let's tick off those last two. Miracle mineral supplement has its whole own Wikipedia page because of like people dying from it. Essentially, it's industrial bleach. That's what they give you. Which
wait, what?
Yeah.
You ingest it.
Yeah.
What? Why is anyone doing this?
Because somebody somewhere said it was good, and this is stuff that will give you a chemical burn. Like that's how strong it is.
Yeah, bleach is like, if I have to clean the shower with bleach, I'm like gagging for hours.
You wouldn't be getting very strong bleach and drinking it.
No. Jeez.
Yeah. So
are they doing it because bleach is so potent that they think it's going to cleanse them from the inside out?
I don't know. I did find some of the old advertisements and stuff for it, but yes.
Oh, it was actually advertised. This isn't just something that someone online has said.
No, it's an actual, I don't know the guy's, I can't remember the guy's name, but he came up with this thing and it was promoted.
Oh, I have to read more about this later.
Yes, the miracle mineral supplement. The miracle being that
you die.
So juice cleansers, people like them. They make people feel better. So what's your experiences?
So I have a new take on juice cleansers now, because I'm working with Soul Cleanse the next few months leading into my wedding, trying to just get everything working a little better.
Sorry, what's Soul?
Soul Cleanse is a juice cleanse company.
Right, okay.
But I've always done juice cleansers because they work, and I'll do anything that works because my gut health is so bad. They do what's called an active cleanse, which is a couple juices, a whole food salad with like quinoa and all this special stuff in it, kachari, which I think is a traditional Indian meal, which is meant to be very healing and all that sort of stuff.
Yep.
I did that 2 weeks ago, and that worked better than any juice cleanse.
Kachari.
Well, that was just like one of the things in it. But so this was a half juice cleanse, half food cleanse, but it was a very specific, tailored food cleanse, and all the meals came to me. You didn't make anything. Everything was pre-made, and that works better than juice cleansers. So I think it works for the same reason, but I've always kind of just gone for juice cleansing. I think it's all just about the right ingredients, and a company that specializes in gut health and knows exactly what you can and can't be having. If you have something like IBS and you're on an elimination diet, you have celiac intolerances. This was intolerance friendly to the absolute moon.
Yeah.
And that worked better than a juice cleanse, and I wasn't miserable. Like I said to Luke, I could do this juice cleanse forever because I was eating. I was eating, I had energy, I had calories. A juice cleanse, I'm like, okay, I don't feel crap anymore gut-wise, but I'm exhausted.
Yeah.
So after doing that, I will never go back and do a juice cleanse. That would be my go-to.
And you mentioned it removed things that may be upsetting or things that...
Yeah, because I've looked into doing... Have you heard of the elimination diet?
I once had it suggested to me. Oh, no, it wasn't a diet. I had a... No, it was. For allergy reasons, yeah.
Yeah, it's one I meant to do it for my IBS stuff. I'd take things out for 30 days and then slowly put everything back in. And I've never done it because it's like down to the like, you can't have garlic, you can't have onion, you can't have... It's like exhausting and I just can't be bothered. Whereas this did all that for you. This was completely intolerance. Everything that you could potentially be intolerant to, it wasn't in there. Yeah,
that's interesting because... And then that's a valid thing, like not having things that you're allergic to or intolerant to. Like if I have a peanut allergy, I don't want to be eating peanuts, right? It's a different thing to, if I have a peanut allergy, there's no point in me detoxing. I'm not detoxing peanuts. I just can't have them.
Which I'm sure is kind of the same case with your gut. If you work out something doesn't work, don't have it. But I think there just isn't the same sort of, like a peanut test. If you go to, can't even speak. If you're doing a allergy test.
Yeah, I didn't do many foods at the time. I did the one I did, I believe they can do a blood one now. Yeah, I had one where they get your arm and they get all these things that you might be allergic to. And they have like an eyedropper and they put it on your arm and then they scratch your arm. And then they look at where then they measure the size of the lump that you get.
That's it. So I've only ever done the blood one. It's just easy. But there's nothing really like that for intolerances. Like they have intolerance tests, but every gut doctor or naturopath I've been to has said they're not super accurate. The only way you can really work out if what's like upsetting you is to take everything out and slowly put it back in. So I think what you're saying about peanuts, just don't have peanuts. I think it's the same with gut stuff, but the process is like, yeah, who can be bothered?
So in that sense, when you say you're doing this, do they call it a whole body cleanse or what do they call it?
They just call it a cleanse.
So it's not a cleanse in the sense that you're taking something that's going to get toxins out of you. It's more that you stop taking things that are either your body's allergic to or irritating your body or unbalancing or doing something bad.
Yeah, exactly. You stop putting the crap in.
Yeah, it's like it's not a detox, is it? But it's still valid. Like it's a real thing.
Yeah, and like I love it, but it's definitely a Band-Aid because all you do is straight away then put the crap back in. So when it comes as like a detox, yeah, I don't know if I'd call it a detox because that's why I think they call it a cleanse because it does feel like a 3-day cleansing of the body. But it's definitely not detoxing like a drug detox. If you're coming off a drug addiction and you're going through withdrawals and you're detoxing like that, that to me, if I was thinking of a proper detox, that is a detox. When you are taking something, you are not going to put it back in your body ever again and your body goes through a serious reaction to not having that thing anymore. But the end goal is to never put it back in.
Right. Yeah, because I guess in that, if you go to drug rehab, and I guess we do call it a detox as well, generally they're not sucking the poison out, right? It's just that you're going to stop taking it. Yeah,
and your body goes through that reaction of what I think is detoxing.
Yeah.
The way that you'd have the night sweats and all that sort of stuff that people talk about, the vomiting, like the actual physical response to your body not having something anymore. And then I think a detox really is you're not putting it back in.
Yeah, okay.
if you're just having a period away from it, it's a break or a cleanse.
Yeah.
But I think a detox, like if you're saying, you're detoxing your house, you're doing a spring clean, you're getting rid of clutter, you're getting rid of stuff that isn't meant to come back.
Yeah, okay. So either a juice cleanse or this whole body cleanse. A juice cleanse, I guess, if you're only having juice, then there's a lot of things you're not having, and any number of those might be upsetting you, right?
Yeah, and I find going back to eating after a juice cleanse can be, it can be full on for the body.
Yeah.
There is once that I've done the very, easing back on with bone broth and then some fruit and vegetables, and then it's a bit different. But to go from not eating to eating, just bang, in 3 days. Yeah, I don't know how the body goes with that. I know the body's adaptable, but that's a pretty when you go from eating to not eating to eating,
yeah,
that to me is almost the same effect as someone yo-yo dieting, which we know is not good for the body.
Right. Okay. So many different opinions on that around, like how consistent do you want to be? Because even if you're having 3 meals a day, you're eating and not eating. Or that you could stretch that right out and you could eat for a day and then not eat for a week and then eat for that's one extreme. Or you could eat every 10 minutes. Or you could be on a drip and just, so where's the...
I think actually when I say yo-yo dieting isn't good, if I think of yo-yo dieting and intermittent fasting, two very different things that I think have different effects on the body. And I think that's what we were saying last time about intention. If you're intermittent fasting and you are doing it strategically and you are giving your body the nutrients it needs, it probably is fine for you or good for you. But if you're someone that has gone out binge eating and now they feel like shit because all they've had is sugar and carbs, so they juice cleanse for 3 days, and I see this a lot with juice cleansing people. They think they've made up for the calories they haven't eaten, and then they hit their bodies again with a binge. That I think is so different to an intermittent fast.
I'm not sure. Maybe we've talked about intermittent fasting a couple of times. Maybe we should dive into it a bit more, another episode. I think
it actually would be an interesting episode because it's something I've looked into doing. I've tried. I still read research about. I cannot wrap my head around if it's actually worth it.
Yeah, I also don't know. If you'd asked me a few years ago, I would have said no. And the thinking is that you are teaching your body that it needs to store more resources than it really needs to. If I'm constantly forcing myself to not eat, then when my body gets food, it's going to reduce its metabolic rate. And 2, it's going to start storing the fats when maybe it doesn't need to. But then some of the stuff I've seen more recently is that actually your body is really, really good at always maintaining how many kilojoules or how much energy it uses a day. And if you increase or decrease food, it very quickly figures it out. And so it's a much more complicated setup around what your body does. And that's part of why people struggle to either gain or lose weight just based on what they feel like they want. But yeah, I always thought that was, if you starve yourself, your body's going to be like, now I'm going to store that stuff somewhere, because I know that I may not be able to get food again. But then the extreme of that would be when I just drink Coca-Cola all day, every day, and my body will be like, I got plenty of resources, don't need to store already. And that clearly isn't the case, right? Anyone who drinks 6 liters of cola a day is likely to be on that My 600-Pound Life show. So
yeah, I think it'd be an interesting episode.
So juice cleansers, yeah, I've never done one. I think at the very least, encouraging hydration is going to make a difference. I've never done one, so I can't comment, but I definitely, I think there's a lot of weight behind what you said about it eliminating not necessarily dangerous toxins, like it's not like you were eating lead every day before, so you're not cutting out anything like that, but you very well could be eliminating lots of things that are triggering your immune system, or not creating a great environment for your gut, or affecting your brain chemistry. Like there's a lot of things that we're probably all getting in our day-to-day diets that if we stop getting those for a while, it's probably going to help a lot.
Yeah, exactly.
Cool. Okay, so verdict on juice cleansers is that, what do you think? Positive, but it's not an actual detox?
I don't think it's a detox. I think it's a tool if you have gut problems. That is my take on it.
I agree. Saunas.
Yeah, I'm on the fence about this one.
I don't know. I like saunas, especially in winter, because I guess it helps me detox cold from my body, because not that it's cold is a thing you have to detox, but I feel like I'm cold all the time. I'm just generally miserable. Getting into a sauna is just such a difference. I'm confident that you're not going to sweat out any toxins.
I think more than anything, it's the heart health benefits.
Yeah.
When you get in the sauna, and I don't run, and I find horse riding now so easy because I do it majority of my day. I don't really get my heart rate up from doing that either. And I do Pilates here and there and walk, but I don't do HIIT. I don't do boxing. I don't do sprinting. One time my heart rate gets high is in a sauna. So I think I'm definitely getting benefits in that sense.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah, that's all I think it really does for me.
Yeah. Because it's making your body do work.
Yeah, or if I'm really inflamed and swollen, obviously it'll help me get rid of some water weight. But that's about it.
Yeah, I mean, you are going to, I mean, it possibly could have similar, maybe not as good, but it could have some sort of lymphatic effects that you would have less sort of water retention around the place.
Yeah, like I went out drinking Friday night and then Saturday went in the sauna and was 100% less puffy after that. Yeah. So there's that benefit too.
Right.
But I think that's from my experience of it, that's about it.
There's plenty of evidence that it does promote relaxation, stress relief, actually reduces cortisol levels, which is good. And of course, what you just said, makes you feel better. And that's, placebo effect is powerful.
100%. I hate whenever someone says it's just a placebo. Because if it is a placebo and it works, it's still working. Yes. I still feel better. Yeah.
And there's, I can't remember where I heard this joke, but placebo is the most widely tested thing, because every study compares it to placebo. So we know way more about placebos than we do about any drugs or medicines or foods. And there's a lot of evidence that they really work. So that's...
Yeah, I think they're great.
Okay, so infrared saunas, I think they're great. I don't think it's going to cure any diseases, but I think it can do a lot of good things.
Yeah, I'm the exact same. I think there's a lot of benefits from it. I just don't know if detoxing is really one of them.
Next one, which is interesting, is alkaline diets, or like an alkaline cleanse. Have you ever seen either sort of like promoting more alkaline foods versus acidic foods or anything like that?
I've seen alkaline water. Have you seen that? The water that so I know the marketing behind alkaline. I don't know anything beyond that though.
Okay. It's nonsense, basically. Not to say
shocking.
Not to say that alkaline water is bad or that alkaline foods are bad, because lots of foods that are quite alkaline are just generally healthy foods. But the pH, well, let's just talk about pH a little bit so that anyone who doesn't know much about this stuff gets a bit of a sense. So pH is is a measure of how they call it alkaline, they call it basic, and then acidic. So there's very acidic things which are really low pH, and there's very basic things or alkaline things that are a high pH. Yeah. And if anyone who's done, I did a little bit of chemistry in high school, not a great deal, but pH affects all kinds of things. Chemical reactions occur at different speeds, or all kinds of things, like particular organic chemistry is highly affected by pH level at which those reactions occur. Anybody who's owned a fish tank or anything like that knows that they have to keep a very specific pH.
Yeah, I had farting fish, so I know.
Yep.
Yeah, that was a nightmare.
Another example of pH is that, when we make a soft drink, that we actually measure the pH in FLCK when we make it, and the pH is important because we actually generally want the pH in FLCK to be fairly low, and we want it to be low enough that it's taste as well. Generally, soft drinks are acidic. That's just the taste they have. But you also want the pH to be fairly low because it inhibits growth of pathogens. So there's some harmful bacteria that just won't grow in a low pH. One really interesting example of this is that people make cold brew coffee.
Yeah, I know cold brew coffee.
Yep. And coffee, cold brew especially, like when you make hot coffee, the pH is a bit low. It's a bit more acidic. Cold brew, the pH can be higher. And one of the things that can grow in a more alkaline environment is bacteria that produces botulism toxins. Yeah, so, and Botox is the stuff that they inject into your muscles to paralyze them, right? Yeah, so generally, like if you're buying cold brew coffee in a can, you would assume that their processes are safe enough, but there are cases of people making cold brew themselves at home and just leaving it on a counter somewhere for a long time and then drinking it, and they can die because this bacteria grows in it. And
another reason I'm glad I don't drink coffee anymore.
right. So yeah, pH levels are important for all kinds of things. Like I said, we have a specific pH of FLCK, which is generally due to the taste we're going for. Like we add acids to make it taste a certain way, but it also is that once we know the pH, we know what the shelf life is, because we know that bacteria is not going to grow in it. And we also, for the record, we also do other things, like we do, we have careful production environments, and we also actually pasteurize as one of the first steps. So, but also, we set the pH specifically to avoid it. So yes, your body has to keep a very specific pH, and I can't remember what it is, so I'm not going to say it, but your body has a very tightly regulated pH, and it has to do this. It'll do all kinds of things to get it there. So, and of course, in your guts, like in your stomach, it's acid. It's like acid is like, because it's got to break down food. So alkaline foods are going to do zero for your pH. If you manage to eat anything alkaline enough to affect your body's pH, you'd probably die. So yeah, it's a load of nonsense. But same as the cleanse you were talking about, is that it may well, in the process of eating these sorts of foods that are more alkaline, you may just be eating healthier foods.
Which I think is the case if you have any of those. If you do keto or paleo, or maybe not when you go as restrictive as, say, your carnivore diets. But I think any of those diets, you're probably going to eat more whole foods than you would have been.
I mean, not all of them are going to be alkaline either, right? Like, I mean, if you're eating fermented foods, like I don't know what the pH of sauerkraut is, but if it's, those things are generally good for you. So alkaline glands, again, you can't actually change your body's pH. If you did, you'd be in a lot of trouble. But promoting healthier foods, it's always good.
Yeah, agree.
I wanted to mention antioxidants a little bit. I don't know, have you been on one of these supplements where it's like you need antioxidants to clean up your body or something like that?
No, but I tried to get into red wine for antioxidants.
Yeah.
That's as far as that. I thought if I was drinking, I'd drink red wine, but couldn't do it. Not for me.
And this is just on the same topic of, trying to keep things real and trying to be skeptical of all the things that we hear. There probably is a lot of good things around wanting to eat foods that are high in antioxidants. And they always say that fruits with dark flesh are high in certain things. But as one example of the sorts of risks is, there was a really interesting study on beta carotene, and beta carotene is a strong antioxidant. And in your body, it gets converted into vitamin A. So should be lots of good things that you get from it. There was quite a large study that they did with smokers, and they had smokers who were given high doses of beta carotene and ones that weren't. And the ones that had high doses of beta carotene got lung cancer 18% higher frequency than. So, and that's just one study. So we, multiple studies, and the more research, the more we learn is important. But there's always, especially when you're mega dosing things, you always have to be so skeptical and careful of things that, what's the joke is that where did I hear this joke? It's like 5 minutes after immortality tablets were released, somebody overdosed and died. Like because that's how we do things, right? It's like, well, yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's funny what you say about the mega dosing, because when I was away, I can't remember where I was. I was away this year, and with all my gut problems, if I fly, I get super constipated. And it was like 6 days into the trip, was feeling crap, called my gut doctor, and she was like, you can try taking high doses of vitamin C. Like, you're just getting vitamin C. I was like, okay, how much do I take? She's like, just take it till it works. I was like, okay. And I was insane amounts of vitamin C. And then I started to feel really sick. My heart rate was flying. And I was like, I think I've had couldn't have like 20 of these vitamin C tablets. And she's like, oh no, that's bad. Like, you should not have had to take that many. But in my brain, I'm like, it's vitamin C. There's no harm in this. I don't need to check if this is too many. You said take as many as like it's funny when you think about how much, like, you don't think taking huge doses of something like antioxidants, vitamin C, about even magnesium. Yeah. I've heard of people taking way too much magnesium and having heart attacks from that.
Yes. I know, those famous examples of people, I believe was MDMA or something like that, like going out clubbing and taking one of those and dying because they overdose on water.
Yeah, see, I think you told me that last time, like, just the craziest. You just don't think it'll ever happen. You just think you can't have too much of the good stuff. So, like.
Yeah, and then the last one, of course, was carbon 60, which I just find there's almost no. Basically, they discover this particular way that carbon will form molecules, and it forms this really weird like bond with 60 carbon atoms. We're talking atoms. Anyway, carbon 60. There's 60 of them, and they form this like a lattice in a ball shape. And so I guess at some point somebody's gone, let's eat them and we'll live forever.
What else would you do?
There was one study that showed that rats were living longer if they took this. But it's funny that there's so many studies on things that they give rats to make rats live longer.
Yes, I've always been vegan. I'm against animal testing, full stop. But the rat thing, I find it's bizarre that we're like, okay, if it works on a rat, we're good. Really.
That one's pretty funny. I also think the other funny one is it's been done multiple times where they essentially just starve the rat, not actually starve them to death, but just have them on a really low calorie diet. And they invariably, the rats do live a bit longer. But then, then they say, well, yeah, but the whole time the rats are shivering and cold and miserable.
Yeah. Rats have the worst quality of life ever, and the rats aren't trying to go to work or run or look after children, or the rats are just existing.
Yeah. So, yeah, if you wanted to live in a cage and be miserable, you probably could eat very little. Obviously need to be getting enough food to get enough nutrients, but and then who knows? Maybe maybe rats and humans are exactly the same and it works just the same, or maybe not.
Yeah, we need the exact same condition the rats are in.
That's right. Living in a cage with nothing to do. Yeah. That was sort of detox trends that I found around. Is there any others that you've seen around that are interesting?
The only other I've ever done is colonics when my stomach's really messed up.
Yeah.
That one I believe in just because the whole gut brain thing. If I get to the point I need to go get a colonic, afterwards I'm happier.
Mm.
Like, if your digestive system has completely stopped working, I think that one just makes sense.
I mean, I imagine you would feel, if your bowels don't like what's in them and you go and clean them out, I'm sure you'd feel 100% better.
Yeah, that one I think is just like a kind of no-brainer one, which is funny because that one's so controversial.
It's not zero risk, is it? Like,
I think now it pretty much is. So I put off, a couple doctors recommended me do it. And I was like, no, I can't, because everyone told me once I start that, my bowels won't work by themselves anymore. Like, I'll have to get one every day. It's a disaster. And then I did some research into it, and I spoke to a few doctors that specialize in that sort of stuff and some actual colonic hydrotherapists. And the modern way of doing it now, and how much I think it's evolved since the old school way.
Yeah. So I guess the equipment and everything is safe, because what I heard at one point is that perforation.
Yeah. So I was terrified of that. Yeah. That all that stuff. And they're like, it doesn't happen. Like, it does not happen. It just completely cleans out the colon. And it's like, what's worse for you at that point? Sitting there with feces just rotting in you. Your digestive system, like you said, is an important part of detoxing, and that's not working. Or going and doing that with someone that's actually trained in it and knows the systems and the digestive system and the colon inside out. So that one I 100% believe in, but I don't know if you didn't have IBS or something.
Yeah, okay.
Like, I don't know if for the average person that would do anything, if at all, or if potentially then maybe their bowels wouldn't work as well because their bowels were already working really well. But if you're someone that has digestive health issues, I think a bit like the juice cleanse, any tool that can allow you to feel better in your gut is going to improve your life, because if your gut is out, life is miserable.
Yes. I can't say who, or this is just going to be anecdotal, but I have heard of more than one doctor that works in that area, so digestive system, where they will, if they're having problems, they'll do a prep. And a prep, for anyone who's been fortunate enough to never have to do one, is that if you're getting certain procedures done, basically you get given something that forces your body to empty its contents entirely. But yeah, there's a lot of doctors who, not a lot, I have heard of multiple doctors who they're having digestive problems, they will do a prep. And I guess that's going to have a similar effect to, maybe not exactly the same, but it's definitely going to clean you out.
Yeah. And I used to just try and take laxatives, which I can imagine is like the prep stuff for all of that sort of thing. That I think, like, that's just horrible. That's just horrible. The whole thing is horrible. And like often there's cramping and it's just the worst experience in the world. Whereas colonic is just water actually going into your colon and coming out. It is so much quicker, less of a hassle, pain-free. Yeah, those, whenever anything comes up about anything prep related on TikTok, because I get all this digestive health stuff.
Would you then you said you get it done by, like, you were concerned about it, but you get it done by like reputable places. Do you see it then as like a specific medical procedure in the same way that like chelation would be, or could it be, I guess, how do you perceive it as part of a life? Is it like,
I think it's more of almost a wellness ritual.
Okay.
I think it's in the same category as Chinese medicine sort of thing. It's not a Western medical procedure.
Yeah.
But if you are looking for a way to improve your health that isn't, like, if you go to a doctor and you say, I have IBS and I get constipated, they're going to give you laxatives. That will be that solution. If you don't want to go through that, then I think it's a great alternative. I think it's a great alternative medicine.
Okay.
A bit like, naturopath or Chinese medicine, acupuncture. I think it comes under that sort of that sort of thing.
Have you done any of these other, I guess, more extreme things? Like, I believe they can do this with coffee as well. Is that?
Yeah, I've heard of them. Never tried.
Never tried.
No, more because I'm scared of coffee.
Okay.
Like, it just, I've heard of people doing it with coffee, and that's just like, which apparently is really good for you. But
right, you wouldn't.
Way too much coffee.
You wouldn't
no,
try.
no way.
We won't put that on the things we tried this week. Okay. Okay. So, but you think you find find a good provider for it, and I guess, do you think you have to, like, you spoke to your doctors first? Is that the sort of thing where you need to consult a doctor?
I spoke to a gut health doctor, and then I spoke to the person that that owned the clinic, I think she was at the time. I think it's the sort of thing, if you walked in somewhere and you said, I want a colonic, and they're like, sure, jump up. Red flag. Big red flag. Like, I think go somewhere where they're actually going to discuss if it's suitable for you, if it's something you're going to be comfortable doing, if you are aware of any risks that there could potentially be, if you understand that, it's not a cure for anything, it's a tool, it's a treatment. If you find someone that actually goes through the process like that with you, then I think you're pretty good, because by then you're going to know if it's something you actually should do and if it's going to be good for you. I think a lot of things with any sort of health stuff, like I've been to naturopaths that kind of looked at me like I was just another person coming in and out, gave me some drugs, and on you go.
Yeah.
Like, I think it's anything that comes with health. Is this person actually taking the duty of care?
Yeah.
To understand my body and if this is something I should be doing.
Yeah, I think that's true, or it must be true of everything, right? Like, you having a practitioner who cares and sees you as a full person.
Exactly.
I haven't tried any new things this week, so I didn't. But did you try any?
Well, I started the sauna stuff, which we kind of covered, but I am going to continue doing it. More just because it's really relaxing. I finish my night with it. I'm happy.
You have one in your building or something? Is that?
Yeah.
Nice.
So down like a few floors below, there's a pool, spa, sauna, steam room, gym. And I never went down there because I thought it would be like this big, really busy public sauna.
Mm.
And I was like, nah, I don't want to do that. But there's no one ever in there. So.
Wow. And it's infrared or it's?
No.
Right. So
so I've used infrared ones where you can actually see the light, the lights.
Mm-hmm.
This doesn't have that, but it's also not cold. So maybe it is infrared and it's just different to the ones I've used before.
Can you, can you see a little heater anywhere?
Don't know. I've had a look actually. It's made of wood.
Yeah, I think they're all usually have some timber in them.
So I don't know what it is, but it's hot. Like I've done saunas before that were the infrared ones with the light therapy. Those ones that are, and I can do like an hour in those. Whereas this one, it's 15 minutes and
wow.
I'm tapped.
Interesting. I wonder with the infrared ones, I find, and like, I don't know which you're in, but if I get into an infrared one, it's kind of like nothing, but it hits a point where I just start to be like, oh God, I got to get out of here. Which takes a bunch of time.
Yeah, see, that's exactly the ones that I could last longer in. For like 20 minutes, it's enjoyable. And then that last 10 is hell. This smacks you at about 2 minutes.
Right. Okay. So that must be a traditional one. I am intrigued what the, maybe it's all mental, but like intrigued what the mental or physiological difference is that for you, those traditional ones, it's like, oh God. And for me, it's like I can feel heat on my skin and otherwise not much. But it could be, how hot it is or how close you sit to it or any number of things.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Well, that's a wrap for episode 5. What are we doing for episode 6?
I think we should do some intermittent fasting stuff because it keeps coming up. I think we should just do an episode on it. Okay.
Should we both not eat until next episode?
You could do that quite easily.
No, I think I might die if we're not super consistent to record exactly on the week. I'll leave it up to you if you want to try and fast at all.
Well, I end up doing it accidentally some days.
Okay.
So, because I ride horses. Because I kind of just eat when I'm hungry.
Right.
If I'm busy with the horses, I do not have an appetite till I get home.
Mm-hmm.
So what I actually might do is start taking notes of how I feel in different days.
Yeah.
So I can actually compare.
Yeah, okay. I don't think I want to not eat for a day, but I'll see. Cool. All right. So stay tuned next time. Intermittent fasting. Does it work? Does it not? Until next time.
See ya.